Hi, today I want to talk about certain forms of ornamentation, including rolls. Now, if you're just starting to play Irish music on the button box, you may not be too concerned about ornamentation, or you may be. And it's as well to get things moving, get tunes under your belt before you worry too much about ornamentation. However, I do think there are certain devices that you need to explore very early on if you want to play dance music. Now, in Irish dance music, jigs, reels and hornpipes played on all the traditional instruments, you have these devices called rolls. And starting in the 1950s, the Irish box players on the BC system tried to incorporate rolls or box versions of rolls into their playing, with varying degrees of success, in my humble opinion. Now, I'll explain why I want to introduce these in a moment, but let's see what rolls are. Now, to understand rolls, I think you need to look at an instrument such as the pipes, the flute or the fiddle, or the tin whistle, on which the music was developed before rolls and other stylistic devices were adopted by box players. So let's have a look. To me, there are two main types of rolls, if you like, that occur, and we're going to look at the types that occur in reels. And firstly would be an on-beat long roll, a long roll that happens on a strong beat of a tune. Say something like this one. On that bottom E there we have a long roll. That's a long roll. You might find one in another tune, well-known tune that you probably know, The Musical Priest. So that is a long roll, and it's composed, as you can see, of the main note, a higher grace note, and a lower grace note, making, if you like, 5 notes in all. There's another variety of roll that's very important in reels, and this is really the one that I think you need to tackle early on. These kinds of phrases. I call them offbeat rolls, some people call them short rolls, but they always occur in an offbeat, and in a tune like, say, The Drunken Landlady, they're a very strong feature of the tune. That's not The Drunken Landlady, actually. It's another tune, but it's very similar to a long roll, if you like, but it's stretched across an offbeat, sorry. The last part of an on-beat and the start of an offbeat. And you might get another one. Another example would be the Silver Spear tune that you certainly know. Da-dee-da-dum. Now, when we come to the box, those two types of rolls, let's see if I can get this pointing down at my box area. The reason I think you want to tackle the offbeat rolls early on, because I certainly did, is that if you want to play a tune that incorporates one of those long rolls on an on-beat there, or again, now I'm not ornamenting those notes, and the tune works well, especially if you shape the note with a little bit of bellows pressure. Da-be-doodle-da-dum. Or ya-da-la-da-lam. So you can learn to play those kinds of reels fairly well without any fancy stuff. However, when you get to the offbeat rolls, that doesn't work. If you play a tune like that, or like this, you'll immediately sound like a beginner. And you don't want to sound like a beginner, you want to sound like you've got a good handle on these tunes. And the reason you'll sound like a beginner is that any experienced listener will say that, or hear that, when you play a long note in those places, the tune sort of stops. You lose the impetus and it has to keep going. It has to keep going. And if you stop it there, well, you're not really playing a reel that a dancer would want to dance to, or that a listener would want to tap their foot to. So let's look at rolls on the accordion. The way that the players like Paddy O'Brien, Joe Burke and all those who follow them learn to do rolls would be to use the outer row to provide the final grace note. So in a tune, say like, this is the jig. There you've got an upper grace note on the main row, an outer grace note, a final grace note on the outer row. Now, that works well in this tune because, let me just show you the outer grace note here is an F sharp. And F sharps do occur in this tune, in the second part of the tune. So the F sharp is fine. It's not out of key. But unfortunately, in most of the rolls that you will play, you'll end up with an out of key grace note. We happen to have F sharp on the outer row here, but if you take, say, a tune in D major, the outer row grace note is an F natural, which is totally out of key. And when you first hear these, if you're, if you have a delicate ear and you're used to Irish music played on other instruments, they can make you flinch or even gag. So the trick is when you're playing these 5-note rolls, and I do think you should learn to play them, is getting the final grace note unobtrusive enough that the flow of the tune is not disrupted by this out of key note. And that's a tricky thing. I think it'll take years to do. I can barely do it myself. There are many players, of course, who do it very well. But for me, the 5-note roll remains a sort of ambiguous contribution to Irish music as played on the box. So let's assume that you're going to slowly put time into mastering 5-note rolls, but you need to get up to speed on reels, and so therefore you need to do something on these offbeat roll places to keep the tune moving and not appear to be a total beginner. So I'm going to show you a variety of devices that you could use in those situations. Okay? If you've watched any of my other clips, you'll know that the first way of dealing with these offbeat rolls that I tend to insist on is playing the note 3 times using finger swapping. And I'll come to that in a minute, but let's look at some more conventional, if you like. By the way, I should say that as a box player, I'm pretty much self-taught. But I have had a lot of experience on other instruments, playing Irish music for several decades on the tin whistle and the fiddle. But as far as box playing is concerned, I've had very few formal lessons, or informal lessons even, but I must give credit for this finger swapping technique that I use so much to a very fine box player from the Boston area of the United States, Noel Scott, who in a 5-minute lesson backstage after a concert when I was just starting out on the box about 12 years ago, told me that was one of the things he thought I should practice. And I have been doing it religiously and built my whole style upon it, so thank you, Noel. Now let's look at some of the simpler ones. Here's something that I saw later on a DVD of John Williams, a tuition DVD, how to play the Irish accordion. And he shows use exactly the same technique of playing 3 notes, but with the without finger swapping. Now, playing the note 3 times is already much better than, because you keep the tune going. So that's like a first default strategy, I would say. So practice that. The important thing there is you want to keep the tune flow going, so you don't want to play staccato. You do not want to play. It has to keep the tune going. Don't lift your finger too much. And you can swell the volume on the second note with bellows pressure. So that's a good thing to learn. Now, a very common ornament used by box players and concertina players would be almost like a 5-note roll with the last component missing. Instead of playing, I play. So that's something worth practicing as well. You play the note 3 times, but the second time you grace it. Of course, I'm playing a long roll there, but... And of course, I've just given away the fact that everything I'm showing you here will also work for long rolls, but we're more worried about offbeat rolls at the moment. So there's another default strategy, playing a kind of a half roll. It's another good one. Another thing, more conventional again, would be to play a triplet. So you're playing 3 notes in the space of 2, as it were. And it's quite a different sound from the grace note. It's not, but it's. Another very important ornament that you must have in your bag of tricks. And notice that you can use different notes. Now, this tune, The Drunken Landlady, I'm actually here. Default idea would be to play the grace note on the button above, or the note above on the button on the same row. But you might decide that it sounds better. In this case, although I'm telling you not to play outer row grace notes in 5-note rolls, here in this particular tune, The Drunken Landlady, which is sort of E minorish kind of tune, it so happens that the third, or the note of G, is totally absent. There are no G's anywhere. So you could say that the G was out of key. Well, it doesn't sound bad, but you could, if you're a real purist, you could play the F sharp on the outer row. Because the F sharp, of course, is in key. So there's another strategy, the triplet. Now let's come back to my finger swapping thingo. So in this figure, where we're naturally on the first finger for the main note, we can play 1, 2, 1. And you kind of sliding one finger out of the way to make room for the next, because again, you want to avoid staccato. You don't want to have. You want to have. Now, the advantage, to my mind, of using the 3 fingers, using the 2 fingers on the one button, is that you can make it sound more fluid, more easily than. You can really vary the amount of articulation between the notes from staccato down to no real articulation. So the other thing is that it enables you to play these figures very fast. If ever you find yourself in a situation where, for whatever reason, you need to play ridiculously fast, it'd be much easier with finger swapping than it will with one finger. So there we are. That's my preferred technique. If you want to make that more complicated and more like a roll, a bit like the half roll I showed you before, a bit like this. you can. Gives you a variation again in the sound, a bit more fluid than the half roll, the conventional half roll, and to do this you need to play 1 and then 3-2 for the grace note and the main note. That's a few hours of practice required for that one, and you can also do that with other fingers. Sorry, I didn't mean to do a roll there. So again, swapping 2-1-2. But also grace note 3-1. It's hard to do it slowly once you've learnt it. So there we are. Another variation on the 3 repeated notes, and I got this from Damien Connolly, who's a very fine player, and he showed me that you can again keep the rhythm going, but instead of articulating the sort of sounding the note 3 times, you do it twice. So that instead of the first button lift, you actually just do bellow swell, volume swell. Dee da ya da. And that's a very useful trick as well. Now the last thing I haven't discussed that you can use in these places would be what fiddlers would call a treble. And this is where, when fiddle players can't do a roll in particular on an open string, they will play a real triplet on the same note. So on the whistle it might sound something like this. Let's say fiddle players can't do a roll on an open A string, where we might play on the whistle. A fiddle player will play. That's not used by many whistling flute players, it's used by some. And of course, box players, it's probably starting with Tony McMahon or Jackie Daly, I think, probably the most prominent user of this technique, probably borrowed from Scottish accordionists, brought this into the Irish box playing dialect. So here, instead of playing the note E 3 times, we're playing it 4 times. Once and then 3. And the way that Jackie Daly does this, and the way that I learned to do it, is to use fingers 3, 2, 1. But you can use fingers 1, 2, 1 easily too, although I don't usually do that. Or again, and then of course there's players like Sharon Shannon and and Dermot Byrne and people who followed that generation who play an incredibly fast triplet that sounds a bit like Tommy People's scrunch on the strings of a fiddle, which I don't seem to be able to produce myself. So I stick with a more conventional da-da-da treble. So there we are. There's a quick run through things you can do to replace offbeat rolls on the button box.